Everyone, my name is Jack Williams with,
Ehsan Kassim.
and welcome to another episode of Seminole Script, our midweek show. Talk about what happened last week, what's going on this week, and what is ahead for the weekend. We are getting into the nitty gritty. Well, not the nitty gritty of the season now. We're getting towards the end of the season now. We are into the postseason.
Yeah, I was gonna say the regular season is done. We're in the postseason, which is remarkable. Florida State's playing in the first ACC Championship game since 2014. They're looking for the first ACC Championship since 2014. So it's been a while since Florida State Seminoles fans can say they're in the postseason. The bowl game obviously is different, but to play in a bowl weekend is not a bowl weekend, a conference championship weekend is fun. It's a different experience. There's not as many games going on this weekend. We have one of the main ones that what we're going to be probably keeping an eye on. Not watching because we'll be covering College Cup. We'll be going up for that. But Washington against Oregon on Friday. We'll keep an eye on that one. And then obviously Florida State's at the next day. Michigan, Ohio, Iowa
Mm-hmm.
is on. I think at the same time actually as this game. So it's going to be kind of interesting. Georgia Alabama's at 3 o'clock Saturday. So it's fun. This is the time of the year that you really strive for because you look at someone like Ohio State who's sitting at home with one loss. They, for all intents and purposes, are number 6, but they are probably have a less chance of a chance getting in than Texas or Alabama, who are 2 teams directly behind them, because they're not playing this weekend and they cannot win a conference championship.
Right. No, it's an interesting time of the year for sure, and there's a lot of situations and conundrums going on while there is, 4 undefeated teams left. There's still very much room for argument for who could get in, stuff like that. Right now, it is Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2, Washington number 3, and Florida State number 4. However, that could easily all change. As we mentioned, there are a bunch of chaos ideas out there and what
The episode,
could be happen.
the episode of the Community, which we're both big fans of Community, remedial chaos theory.
The die.
The die. Jack's gonna throw one up, and we're gonna create 6 alternative worlds. So
Yeah, so some world, Florida State's number 1 in it, and that might be this one. We don't know, considering what happens. But anyway,
we should mention it. Like, there's a possibility if Iowa beats Michigan, Alabama beats Georgia, and then Oregon beats Washington. There's one undefeated team left. Does that one undefeated team, because you prove no one else can do it at that point, does Florida State just be number 1? I would say they went undefeated. They beat everyone in the schedule, and then they beat multiple ranked teams because you're going to have Louisville on there. Louisville will be ranked. They might have lost one because they're 14. So unless they get 41-0 and look completely embarrassing, they're going to be finishing in the top 25. Clemson is going to finish in the top 25 because they don't play another game until the bowl game. Same with LSU. They're going to be they're top 15, 16, I think, something like that. So yeah, at that point, I think if Florida State's the only undefeated team left, they're in the playoffs at number 1. If Florida State's the 4th undefeated team, and Jackie can attest to this, is they should be in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if they're undefeated, I think in any situation, if they are undefeated, they should be awarded to get into the playoffs, hands down, just completely. They deserve to be in that position. But I mean, before talking about what's coming up this weekend or what might be beyond that, final thoughts on Florida. I unfortunately wasn't able to be at the game. I had COVID, but I am healthy now. But Ehsan was down there in Gainesville with our preps reporter Liam Rooney, who is nice enough to fill in. But what were the kind of the big things that you saw from that game?
Yeah, I think you did a story on this on because I was watching the replay more and more. The more we've talked about it, Keandre Jones's response to getting spit on, because we've talked all about this as well, is it's remarkable, because that was a lot of saliva. It's just amazing to me, but the discipline, and that's I think that sums up we also talk about the toughness. Tate Rodemaker takes a hit, could be done for the game, and the team probably looks like, oh shit, for better, here we go again, because they just went through this last week with Jordan Travis. Tate Rodemaker goes on the field, and you're like, oh no, are we doing this again?
Right,
right. Interestingly, Brooklyn comes in his first throw. His first play is a throw, one that he calls himself, and Mike Norvell had a funny response to that. It's like, I'm not sure I agree with that call, but he's confident. But 3 plays later, Tate Rodemaker's back in. They score a touchdown, the Trey Benson touchdown run, but resilient, tough, and disciplined. I think those are 3 words that sums up the culture that Mike Norvell has built. and why this team is undefeated, why they beat Florida, why they beat rival Miami, why they overcame Jordan Travis's injury against North Alabama, why they beat Clemson on the road, and why they beat LSU earlier this year is because they are disciplined, they are a tough team, and they're resilient. You can put them down any deficit. The last two games they've been down 25-0 after one quarter, or after 2.5 quarters in the first half, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have found the ways to win games. So props to them. This is a very good team. They deserve everything that they've gotten so far. And this could be an exciting game. We talked to Alexis Kubit in our podcast, which you can find below, about the game with previews and predictions for this game, or who to watch and stuff like that. Definitely check our podcast out. But just talking about this, Jack, what are your final? You watch the game from the TV, so you get a different vantage point. What was your thoughts from that game?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, like you mentioned too, I think you summed it up very well, was this was a very, Florida State was very tough. They were disciplined. They were resilient. It was a game, they looked pretty awful in the first half, I'm not going to lie. But, I said earlier too in our predictions that I thought this was going to be a big night for Trey Benson. It needed to be a big night for Trey Benson, considering they were still adjusting to Rodemaker in the backfield and what he was going to do. And Trey Benson needed to knock off a handful of big runs and stuff like that. And he found his game too, had 3 touchdowns. And it was a big night that they needed from them. It was a big win for Florida State, but at the same time, it's kind of glaring considering you put in a factor. Yes, it's a intimidating environment. Yes, it's a rivalry game, but Florida is not a good team, and it kind of justifies, yes, Florida State's undefeated right now, but how is there kind of an illusion that's going on right now that's kind of holding up right now, and it might burst when we go into Louisville, who is a top 25 team in the country right now, top 20 team in the country. But just focusing on Florida and stuff like that, it was a good win for them. They were resilient. They stuck to the plan. They didn't bite into anything that Florida was giving him, whether it was the spitting or I think I noted in my story too that you can clearly see a Florida player flip off the FSU sideline too. Even the ridiculous stuff that happened after the game with the turf cutting and stuff like that. I mean, it was a lot to handle, and Florida State handled it very well. But they're going into a bigger challenge this week, a different challenge. So there's a lot more on the line this week. In Charlotte against Louisville. But I mean, before we jump into the game, I mean, we've been able to watch 2 different practices this week. I asked him, how do you think the practices have been?
Good work day today. We get that from Marvel after every practice. I'm not sure if he means it every time. But the offense struggled a lot today. We saw all 3 quarterbacks. AJ Duffy is AJ Duffy. He is talented. We see the talent. The talent's obvious, but I'm not sure if he's ever put it all together at Florida State. I'm not sure if he will. It's a different topic, for another day. Well, what his future is, but that's a topic for another day. Brock Lynn is very talented. That's obvious. He is potentially the future of the quarterback position at the for quarterback for the team in the long run. He's gonna have to hold off Carmen Hawk when he gets here on campus, potentially for bowl game practices. That's a possibility that he's mentioned it could happen. But he's a freshman. We've seen where he makes some bad throws. I think you noted in your the notebook today where Mike Norvell was visibly frustrated a couple times on the throws he would do late behind. I don't know what it was today. The ball just kind of died. Sometimes, when
there was a lot of incompletions. I don't know if it was the cold hands of the receivers too. It's a mix of. There was one point too where they were doing the red zone drills, and I watched it for 5 straight snaps. It was just incompletion after incompletion. I don't even think it was on the defense with PBUs. It was just the receivers could not catch the ball.
It was a timing thing. It was a communication thing. I don't know what it was. It was just not one of their better practices. Like we talked about, the other 2 quarterbacks, Tate Rodemaker is still really, really, really good. Not really, really good, but he plays his best when he gets the ball out with it. He doesn't think, he doesn't overthink. It's 1-2 throw, 1-2 throw. So under 3 seconds or less, he gets the ball out. 2.9 seconds, I think, is the time the exact time he needs to get his ball out up. When he does that on the point, really good, but he needs to do a better job of that. When he holds it too long, we've seen he kind of struggles, make bad decisions. The ball's not on time, it's late, it's behind the receiver, but when he throws it, it's on the money, it's a good throw. He's got to do more of that. Louisville has a good pass rush. They have solid secondary. Obviously, he's not been tested as well as Florida State. Two receivers in Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, and also you have Ja'Kai Douglas. Destin Hill looks really good in practice. So yeah, I mean, this team has the potential. I think I've said it before. I don't think they should be knocked by the NCAA, or not the NCAA, but the College Football Playoff Committee for losing Jordan Travis, because it's a talented team. Elsewhere, almost every other position is extremely talented. But what we see from the quarterback is going to determine how far they go.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just again, it didn't look good today. Like the quarterback play, the offense just in general didn't look good. The defense looked good. Defense usually looks pretty good most of the time. But there's a lot of question marks going into this game. They talk about how confident they are in Tate Rodemaker and stuff like that, and they probably are. But I mean, we just didn't see. I'm going to be blunt here. We didn't see the number 4 team in the country.
But let's be fair. There's been points when Jordan Travis is the quarterback, when we have been at practice and they have not looked good. The offense has not looked good. There's been times that the offense has looked good. The defense has not looked good. Then you go to the game, it's a reversal. The defense and offense are just dominating. And, you have to remember they are going against a top 20 defense. So sometimes it is difficult. And we've seen when, Jordan Travis struggles in practice. We've seen that. So it's not like, this is a team that's going to just be like, get into practice. They have 2 more days of practice. Thursday, Friday, generally you don't see. They're going to practice Friday morning before flying up to Charlotte. Sounds like the plan. Friday, there's a press conference with Mike Norvell and Jeff Brom back to back. I don't think we've got an exact time.
Around 3, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we won't be able to make it up for that. We'll be, at the College Cup, women's College Cup. I don't know, we mainly talk about football during the Seminole script, but we will probably have some reaction after the game over that as well. But we'll be at the College Cup at 6 p.m. So we will not make it for Norvell's press conference. It sounds like it's going to be live streamed, so we'll probably be able to keep up with it and give you guys updates. But we're so close to the ACC Championship game. Like, Jack, we're going to Charlotte.
Yeah, we're going to Charlotte. It's going to be a crazy week, and oh god, my hiccups are back. If you listen to the podcast, I was coughing and hiccuping the entire time. Or you haven't listened to the podcast, you can look forward to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a little preview.
But I guess any final thoughts on this Louisville come up? I think the big thing to mention too is that when talking to Alexis, she talked about how Jawar Jordan is a little banged up right now, who's been their kind of bread and butter in the running game and stuff like that.
He's a talented running back. He is fun to watch. He's elusive. He can make people miss. He can score touchdowns from anywhere in the field. Kind of watching Trey Benson, And then I think he was first team or I can't remember, all ACC. No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
See everybody else. I was looking for Florida State.
Yeah, I don't think he was first team, but I think he got on one of the teams, if I'm not mistaken. And you obviously have Jamari Trasher, who is a beast at wide receiver. Very talented guy. 800 receiving yards this year. He's been a little banged up as well. Jack Plummer, is very 6th-year quarterback. It's going to be a little different because Florida State has played I think 3 or 4 straight freshman quarterbacks. So it's going to be a little different to face a quarterback that has a lot more experience, is going to come in and not be thrown off by Jared Verse getting to him and sacking him, right, or Patrick Payton getting to him and sacking him, putting pressure on him. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how, at the end of the day, what I love about sports is it's a chess game. Here's one move. Okay, here's the counter. Here's strategy, a move. Yeah. It's strategy. It's a chess game. There's always moves and counter moves, and you're just trying to think one step ahead of your opponent. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Florida State will obviously have their offense. They might do some different things as well. I can't really say more than that.
Yeah, we saw some interesting things in practice, but who knows what they'll do in the game.
Definitely. It should be a good game, and I think you're going to need every advantage you can in this game because Louisville is a talented team. They're a good team, well coached by Jeff Brom in his first year there. Turned that program around after, we talked with Alexis about it. It's crazy. Last year at this time, not this time, but when they played each other week 4 last year, we're meh, Louisville, and then they gave Florida State a tough game, knocked Jordan Travis out of the game. And Tate Rodemaker came and delivered the game home. So, he could play hero twice against the Cardinals.
That's true. He'll have a full game this time, though.
The knockoff Ball State.
Yes, Ball State. We've re-signed our coach, who is anyway. That's beside the point. But yeah, Essam, where can everybody find all of our content?
Yeah, Tallahassee.com, NoleSports.com. We have plenty of coverage. Find out where Kalen Dolich's interception ball went against Florida. Find out about women's basketball game, men's basketball game. There's a lot going on. Volleyball is playing some big games. Man, it's exciting time of the year. And the ACC, you can hear more about this on our podcast, which is me below or in Spotify, Apple, and anywhere you find your podcast, you can find. But you can hear us talk about all the exciting things going on in Florida State athletics, which we try our best to cover everything in full detail for you guys because we enjoy it. It's fun.
It's a good time, absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Seminole Script, and we will see you guys in Charlotte.
Please like and subscribe.
Yes.